Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this September 16th, 2025 meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. And we always start this off with the Pledge of Allegiance said in a respectful and timely manner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And today we have a special proclamation celebrating National Voter Registration Day, and that is today, September 16th. And I understand there is a lady who will read this proclamation for us. So do you want to come forward and we will start this process? You have a copy of the proclamation? Yes. Okay, then you don't need this one.
And my name's Rebecca Johnson. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of the Helena area. And it is with my great honor to accept this proclamation today from the Lewis and Clark County Commission. Thank you. So celebrating National Voter Registration Day on Tuesday, September 16, 2025. Whereas voting is the foremost right and responsibility of citizens of the United States of America. And whereas active and engaged citizens, regardless of gender, ethnicity, or political affiliation, are the foundation of democracy. And whereas for any democracy to work, all eligible citizens must be able to vote for their representatives without barriers in free and fair elections. And whereas the hallmark of good citizenship is community participation, including informed voting in every election in which a ballot is received. And whereas good citizens include respecting other points of view, keeping an open mind, and taking care of one another. And whereas a thriving democracy includes governments that are open, transparent, inclusive, and equitable. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on September 16th, National Voter Registration Day, citizens are encouraged to remind friends and family to vote. We, the League of Women Voters of Helena area, joins the Lewis and Clark County Commission in reminding citizens to check their voter registration at myvoterpagemt.com to ensure they are ready and able to vote in the upcoming election, which is our City of Helena general election on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. What is the procedure here? Do I need a motion to accept it or?
Commissioner Payne.
They didn't teach me this part yet.
No motion necessary. If the commission has any comments, and then they can, you can give the League of Women Voters the official copy, and
okay,
we're great.
All right, so I will kind of follow the procedure. Is there any comment from the commission, Tom?
We certainly do encourage all people to vote. It's a very important part of what we do in this republic, and I just really do appreciate it.
Good. Thank you very much.
I also would like to comment on some of the remarks that are contained in this proclamation, particularly whereas for any democracy to work, all eligible citizens must be able to vote for their representatives without barriers in free and fair elections. And I mean, that is something that it is paramount. It's how we run the election process in Lewis and Clark County. We've got so many people who are doing everything they can to make sure our elections are open and free and above board.
I agree. And to encourage the participation of all our eligible voters is so important. And that's part of the League's mission, is to be out there helping people get that access and vote.
Good for them.
Good.
Okay. Well, I will I think probably the commission needs to come up and we'll stand with you as I present this to you. Our friend Betsy will take a photograph
Oh, wonderful.
and then we'll move along, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Here. Oh, you're
Good job.
enthusiastic
Good job.
support.
It is important. We all participate in this government. It is not just the three
Yes,
people up here. It is
all the,
yes.
yes.
So anyway, this is proclamation. Betsy is going to take our photograph.
Thank you.
And thank you for
Yes.
coming. I appreciate it.
Oh, very much. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Have a good day. The good work.
Good thing you've got real life. I would be completely lost trying to run this thing. I'd figure it out. Okay. Moving right along. We have a oh, see? Look at this man. He is just keeping me out of trouble. Thank you, Andy. Once again, he reminds me that I've got to go through all the right steps. I have to introduce everybody. I am Commissioner Candace Payne. I'm the chair. To my left is Commissioner Tom Rolfe.
Good morning, Chair Payne.
And to his left is our recording secretary, Brandy Spangler. And to her left is Jenny Chambers, who is not only head of our Public Works Department, she's also in charge of the Planning Department. So, to my right is Commissioner Andy Hunthausen, oh, knowledgeable and wise Andy Hunthausen. To his right is Mr. Nico Hash from the County Attorney's Office. Good morning, Nico. And to his right is Roger Bartz, Roger Bartz, our CAO. We have a sign-in sheet right in the front there. We'd like anybody who is attending to please sign that. And you can also pick up your agenda. All right, moving right along. We have a consent action item presented by Roger Balls. Consent action item 3A, fiscal year 2026, equitable sharing agreement and certification. Roger, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Payne and Commissioners. This is item 3A on the agenda today. Chair Payne, you just read it into the record. I'll just repeat it again. It's item 3A, fiscal year 2026, equitable sharing agreement and certification. Staff recommends approval of this item. Thank you, Commissioners.
Are there any questions from the commission? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Chair Payne, I would move to approve consent action item 3A as explained by Mr. Baltz.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve consent action item 3A. Is there any further comment from the commission? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We will move into the action items. Action item 4A is a grant application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency Hazard Mitigation Program, and this will be presented by our friend Dan Karlin. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Chair Payne, Commissioners. For the record, Dan Karlin, County Engineer. Before you today is a grant application to the Montana Disaster and Emergency Services, or DES, to submit on our behalf a Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, or HMGP, grant application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, for the Beartooth Road Bank Erosion Mitigation Project. The HMGP grant program becomes available statewide when a disaster declaration is made, with preference given to the impacted local jurisdictions. The work proposed in the grant application is to relocate and reconstruct a segment of the Beartooth Road approximately 40 to 60 feet east of its present location, away from the influence of Holter Lake, where existing bank erosion is causing damage to the road and drainage infrastructure. Stormwater best management practices will be added to the project, which will include the installation of new drainage appurtenances, or culverts, to manage stormwater from the surrounding landscape and roadway. Hydroseeding will be used to revegetate road right-of-way. Project activities will include engineering, survey, permitting, and preliminary and final engineering design of the roadway realignment. This grant, if received, will provide $400,405.71 toward the project. The required 25% non-federal share is $133,468.57 and will be a combination of in-kind match with the balance paid from the road division budget or future grant funding. Staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners authorize submittal of the HMGP grant to FEMA and authorize the chair to sign applicable documents to accompany the application. I don't know if we can get those on their screens. I have a location map for them.
It's on our screen.
Perfect.
We can see it just,
All right.
oh, it's a mystery to you folks.
That's all right. So I'll kind of step through what we're looking at here for those viewing and cannot see. So we have Beartooth Road comes off of the frontage road between Wolf Creek and Craig. It heads right toward the Holter Dam and then skirts around the eastern side of it.
This is right above the bridge. Is that right?
Correct. Upstream. Oh, looks like it's coming up now. So
Yes, but he's waiting for it so that all those people out there in TV land can see it.
there we go. Now you can see it on the big screen there. So as I said, you can see the blue area is Holter Lake. That's the reservoir impounded by Holter Dam. The paralleling, I should say, the red line there for a while, that's the Missouri River. The green portion there is the project location.
Yes. They're down there at the,
My apologies, I moved on too quickly for you. Yes, that's the project location.
oh, okay.
Here's a zoom in of the location we're talking about. The red line again, that's Beartooth Road itself. The green is our suggested or approximation of where we would move the road to. You can see the multiple address points in this area. There's a lot of properties in this area with structures on them. So, and then here is a preliminary look at with contours pulled from available existing data. So you can see the red line deviating from the existing Beartooth Road. So that's the idea. We would essentially move the road away from the lake. Towards the bottom of the image there, you can see the brighter white area. That's the bank where it's been eroding. We have a culvert in that location that's extending, originally was about 2 feet out of the bank. It's now over 10 feet of exposed culvert. So we're losing bank at a decent rate, and we'd really like to get that road moved. And we had this opportunity to go after this HMGP grant and would like to submit an application with the commission's approval.
Thank you, Dan. Are there any questions or comments from our commission? Tom?
If I might, I'm assuming there's no interference with any private lands in that area.
Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe. So that's a great question. So where we're proposing to move this road to is on Bureau of Land Management ground. We've had communications with them over the last year or so that indicate they're okay with doing a land swap. Of course, there's more paperwork to it, but they're okay with the idea, and we'd have to do some driveway reconnections and things of that nature, but it would be on federal ground. We would do a land swap to where we would exchange the ground that are currently on with them and move the road right of way at that point.
Thank you, Dan. Anything, Andy?
Chair Payne, Mr. Karlin, just curiosity question. You may not even know this, but I'm wondering about, that I think there's been maybe 3 fires above this location in the last 15 years, approximately. And that post-fire runoff stuff, I wonder if it's contributed to the erosion factor at all, or is this even in line with those drainages? I'm just more curious. It seems to me to be a potential contributor.
Chair Payne, Commissioner Hunthausen, in my estimation, I believe this is wave action from the lake. Just constant wind, constant erosion of, those are pretty erodible soils in there. It's a lot of siltier type materials. And if you have the opportunity to drive out there, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's very little rock and aggregate in that ground to hold it together, and there's certainly not much root structure. So any wave action hitting that is a steady progression of just pulling that material back into the lake.
Thanks, Chair Payne.
I had the opportunity back when I was practicing law to do some work for one of the homeowners out there. And that is a nasty bank. And I've seen it up close, and I think this is a good idea. Okay. Let's see. Any further comments from the commission? Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, could we have a motion?
Chair Payne, I'd move that we approve the grant application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency Hazard Mitigation Program as presented by Mr. Karlin.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the grant application to the Federal Emergency Management Agency Hazard Mitigation Program as described by Mr. Dan Karlin. Is there any further comment from the commission? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Dan. Item 4B is the amendment to the cooperative agreement between Lewis and Clark Public Health and the United States Environmental Protection Agency as presented by Sarah Sandau. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Payne and members of the Commission. I'm Sarah Sandau. I'm the Grant Specialist at Lewis and Clark Public Health. The Commissioners will consider the grant award amendment to the cooperative agreement from the United States Environmental Protection Agency to Lewis and Clark Public Health in the additional amount of $263,000 for the East Helena Lead Education and Assistance Program institutional controls. This would increase the total amount of this award from $1,372,860 to $1,635,860. The budget period would remain the same of April 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2028. This request to apply was brought forward to commissioners and approved on July 1st, 2025. Implementation and enforcement of institutional controls in East Helena and the surrounding area is a component of the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation, and Liability Act remedy. These programs help prevent or reduce contamination of areas through cleanup activities and monitoring. Administration and enforcement of the East Helena Superfund site is done by our Lead Education and Assistance Program, which is in our environmental sciences team at Lewis and Clark Public Health. Lewis and Clark County has received this funding since 2010 in 5-year increments. During this current 5-year increment, the work falls into 4 main components. Component 1 is health risk prevention and education. Component 2 is soil regulations, administration, and enforcement. Component 3 is environmental sampling. And component 4 is administration and reporting. This supplemental amendment revises the current scope of work to include additional supply and contractual costs for staff so that they can assist residents at higher risk of bare dirt lead exposure and for lab and professional services in support of blood lead screening. It also provides funds for remediation gap prevention, such as mulch, gravel, mud mats, and boot brushes for homes that are waiting to be remediated. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Sarah. I have one little clarification. Your introductory paragraph states that the commissioners will consider the grant award amendment. What part are we amending? Can you?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner or Chair Payne. So it would be adding the 263,000, and for the timeline would stay the same, so it's just that additional amount. And what we would be doing is more of those remediation services for those families who are waiting on their soil replacement, as well as some additional staff time.
So the amendment has to do with the time of acting.
Yeah, it's just the additional amount for staff time.
Okay.
So the timeline of the award is the same, but it's the additional amount for staff time to work on
Okay.
those projects.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Is there any questions from the commission? Seeing no further questions from the commission, is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, could we have a motion?
Chair Payne, I would move to approve the amendment to the cooperative agreement between Lewis and Clark Public Health and the United States Environmental Protection Agency, as explained by Sarah Sandau.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve this amendment as described by Sarah Sandau. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none. Sir, all those in favor of approving this amendment to the cooperative agreement between Lewis and Clark Public Health and the United States Environmental Protection Agency indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 4C, contract between Lewis and Clark County and the Fat Track Trail Company as presented by our friend Angie Hubbard.
Good morning, Chair Payne and Commissioners. Angie Hubbard with Community Development and Planning. You have before you for consideration a contract with Fat Track Trail Company for the construction of a 0.5-mile trail around the perimeter of the park and 6 pedestrian access points. North Star Park was master planned with ARPA funding, and the master plan was approved in December of 2024. Phase 1 of the master plan includes a 0.5 perimeter trail around the park. In the spring of 2025, the county was awarded grant funding from the Trail Stewardship Program through Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. The grant award is for $54,235 with $10,000 in matched funds from the North Hills Park fee area, approved by the Parks Board in February of 2025. A signed grant agreement followed that in June. And then once we had that signed grant agreement, a limited solicitation was sent to 4 companies for the construction of the trail and installation of 6 culverts at each access point, installation of 6 park benches, and installation of 7 trail marker signs. 2 responses were received from the limited solicitation, and based on the criteria provided, including timing and budget, Fat Track Trail Company was selected. The contract in front of you today is for an amount not to exceed $43,000, and the contract period is from the date of signature to December 31, 2025. The contractor has indicated that they expect the trail construction and installation to take approximately 3 weeks once they have started. And with that, staff recommends approval of the contract, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission?
Chair Payne.
And Andy, yes.
I may have missed this, and of course I could look again, but assume approved. When did you say the construction would start? Or did you say that? I'm sorry if I missed it.
Chair Payne, Commissioners, upon signature of the contract, they will start flagging out the property and it should start immediately after.
Good. So this fall then?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Like tomorrow. That's,
Again, apologies if I missed your explanation there. I'm sorry.
Tom, do you have anything?
No, it looks like a little progress on that part. We bite it off a little bit at a time and as we can get help and they can afford to do it.
Well, there are a lot of people living out there who will no doubt want to use this. It'll take us a while to get it done. I live out there. I certainly hope they can get some water for our park. But I'm sure smarter engineers than I will figure that out. Okay. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment. Did we have a motion? Okay, let's do a motion. If we did it already, we'll do it again.
Chair Payne, I'd move that we approve the contract between Lewis and Clark County and Fat Track Trail Company as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the contract between Lewis and Clark County and the Fat Track Trail Company for construction of the North Star Park Trail. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So I'm going to sign this thing. You can't all leave. Jeez. Okay. The next item on our agenda is item 4D, Resolution 2025-104, intent to adopt a schedule of administrative fees beginning October 1st, 2025 for the Lewis and Clark County Community Development and Planning Department and Public Works Department. And this will be presented by our friend, Greg McNally. Morning, Greg.
Good morning, Chair Payne, Commissioners. Greg McNally with Community Development Planning Department. You have before you a resolution of intent to adopt a schedule of administrative fees for the Lewis and Clark County Community Development Planning Department and the Public Works Department. Those two particular staffs have prepared an update to our schedule of administrative fees to help defray the expense of reviewing applications in relation to subdivisions, subdivision exemptions, buildings for lease or rent, zoning, the floodplain ordinance, encroachment permits, excavation permits, overweight permits, approach permits, address assignments and plaques, road adjustments, growth policy amendments, and weed management. I think I've captured them all. The last update to our fee schedule occurred back in 2009. We did make one targeted revision when we adopted some regulations for buildings for lease or rent that came on board in 2014. Most of the fees on our existing fee schedule are outdated and do not reflect our current climate in which applications are processed. Certainly, all costs have continued to escalate in the past 16 years. Project complexity, the types of cases, the heightened public involvement and expectations for success, as well as regulatory changes have all led to more challenging project reviews. Commissioners, I've provided in your packet several instances of where you'll see these updates to the fee schedule. You'll see in the resolution the actual fee schedule that would go into effect if we pass after a public hearing. In addition, you'll see another spreadsheet that shows a comparison, side-by-side comparison of our current fees and our proposed fees. Finally, you'll find a spreadsheet at the back that includes comparisons with our proposed fees with other Montana counties that have similar fees for these processes. With the last significant update occurring in 2009, many of our fees are proposed to increase, although there are a handful that will remain the same. In general, the costs for reviews have increased since the updated as processes and procedures have become more complex. as staff align their reviews with the regulatory and legislative changes and updates that have occurred over the years. We continue to recognize that costs associated with the review of applications are not to be fully funded by the reciprocal review fee. So for instance, if we take in a fee.
Would you say that again?
So the costs are not meant to be commensurate with the cost of review. So if we take in an application for a major subdivision, the review fee is not meant to cover the full cost of that review. That cost, we understand, is and recognize is something that should be shared by everyone, not only the development community, but also our taxpayers going forward. So responsible review of development and responsible development that we approve is an onus on all of us. So everybody has a stake in these processes, which brings value to this update to the schedule here. If this were to pass, this resolution of intent, a public hearing will begin. We will accept public comments until 4 p.m. on Monday, September 29th, as well as oral comments for a scheduled public hearing on September 30th, after which on September 30th, we would present a resolution adopting that fee schedule to be effective October 1 of 2025. Commissioners, that's quite a bit of information. It's given to you pretty quickly here. Certainly you might have some questions for me, and I'd be happy to share that with you. Before I take those questions, I'll hit a few that I've heard already. Why now? Why are we looking to approach this update to the fee schedule today? As I indicated, it's been 16 years since we've last done an update to our fee schedule. There's really no good time to approach this particular group to say, hey, we need an update to our fee schedule. In fact, I think it was probably the appropriate time would have been years and years ago. And then obviously then coming back to you on a regular basis to make sure our fees are consistently applied and reflected of the economic climate. In fact, one thing that I would recommend in the future going forward is that we revisit fees on a more regular basis so we don't get caught in a trap where we're 16 years from now looking at fees again and wondering why are we doing it now. I think what's important to know too is when we look at costs and when we look at the increases, we're looking at a few different things. We're looking at rates of inflation. How has that affected our costs? We're looking at staff time, how much staff is spending, how much time is staff spending on these projects. And we're looking at our other counties to see what they're charging for fees, not necessarily to make fees similar to those counties, but to look for those situations in which maybe we're above and, we have an outlier fee, a fee that's much, much higher than our other counties or much, much lower than our other counties. We do want to be relatively similar in how we handle development, but we don't need to be equal to those other counties. And Chair Payne, Commissioners, with that, I'll take any questions if you might have. I'm sure you might have a couple.
Thank you, Greg. Of course, we sat down and talked about all these numbers yesterday and the graphs that you have provided. And the one that really caught my eye is the one comparing Lewis and Clark County to, it looks like about 15 of the other counties in Montana. And it appears to me that other counties have increased their fees over the last 16 years. And I'm wondering if Lewis and Clark County isn't remiss in their duties by not raising these fees so that the people who benefit most, and I'm sure we all benefit from the new subdivisions, but the ones who benefit most are the ones who are building the new subdivisions, getting their fees. And again, why is it this has not been increased for 16 years?
Chair Payne, Commissioners, we just have been comfortable with our fee schedule back from 2009. We've had discussions in the past about moving forward with updating fees. In some instances, there have been things that have, suggested that we maybe just hold off a little bit where we have changes economically, where, hey, well, let's just continue with our current fee schedule. One of the years we faced COVID, which created a lot of changes. And then, we went through a process and we adopted zoning. We knew zoning would result in potentially some new types of regulations or some new types of reviews that we would be taking on. So we wanted to make sure we were implementing those types and kind of knew what those expenses might be, so that we could prepare appropriate fees for this commission to consider for those processes.
And Greg, I recognize this is not something you have done. You've been in charge of our planning department, but I think the honor of kicking the can down the road lies with our elected officials, like the 3 people sitting here. And I think we have a duty to make sure that the budget is balanced and the money comes from an appropriate place rather than out of the general fund. Anyway, that's just a comment from me. Andy, do you have anything?
Chair Payne, Mr. McNally, thank you. Appreciate it. I think you answered most of my questions in your comments, and I think some of those questions were generated from previous discussions with the commission. But I just reiterate public process. So I think that these fees and questions about the fees and the recognition that we're going to propose to raise the fees has been out there for a while in the development community. I'm sure you've gotten some feedback. And now we're starting a 2-week-ish comment period. We'll have another hearing on the 30th for comment and be able to hear from the public. But from my first blush and reading these, it totally makes sense. It'll put us more in line with the other counties across the state, and within reason for what the expectation is for the developer's proportionate share for or whomever's proposing to use our services. The second thing is along the lines we've just been talking about. I think we all recognize that it's been a long time. So maybe there's an opportunity to put a tickler in our system, every 3 years, at least a review. Maybe we come back after that and say, gosh, we don't recommend doing anything with our fees, or this particular one we might want to raise. But at least 3 to 5 years, we have a tickler in our system to do a fee review so that we're not waiting as long. Might be something to think about. But I appreciate the bringing this forward and looking forward to hearing public comment and then the hearing on this. So far, I think we're on the right track. Thanks, Chair Payne.
Thank you, Andy. Tom, do you have anything?
Yes. It looks to me like there are a lot of these adjustments that are pretty much in line with inflation since the last time they were dealt with. But there are a couple of them that seemed a little bit higher, and maybe you could kind of help me through as those, if I might ask about them. For instance, on the I think it's the second page, the creation of a zoning district. Now, I assume this would apply to setting up.
Could you tell us what page you're on?
Page 2.
The red numbers up at the top.
Page 2, it's the third item on the list there.
Mission pack resolution of intent to adopt fee schedule piece. I'm looking at 17 of 19.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that the one you're looking at?
Page 2 of 3 on the bottom right corner. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. And then, and if you take a look at that creation of a zoning district, I'm assuming that would be a separate fee from this, or a road district, or a sewer district, or every district would have a separate fee of this amount. Is that correct?
So Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe, in the creation of a zoning district, so this would be just for a zoning district. So this would be a fee only for that. And it is showing an increase because statutorily there is quite a bit of responsibility associated with creating a zoning district, working with property owners to get that occurred. And I think the fee is a reflection of the effort that takes place both by staff and the statutory needs of to meet those statutory requirements of creating that district.
But, and if I might ask a follow-up, Chair Payne.
Yes.
It would appear we're in line with what some of the other counties have gone to, and in fact, quite a bit lower than, for instance, Missoula County and Gallatin County for the same thing.
Yes, Chair Payne, Commissioner, I think you'll see a lot of those fees. You'll see we have a lower fee than several of our other counties out there. And just to reiterate a couple things about inflation, I did include that rate of inflation in there so you could see it. Inflation isn't the sole reason for any particular increase, but it is a reflection of the change in time here as we've gone forward. And then one other thing, because I just heard it just in your discussion there, you mentioned the creation of like a special district, something like that with water and sewer or something like that. That isn't included in this particular process or in this update. The one we were speaking of was only a zoning district.
Okay, all right, thank you. And there were a couple of them, if I might follow up, that just seemed like they were a little bit higher, and I was just and I just thought it was worth at least talking about them briefly. But some that were quite a bit lower. But let's look at the road adjustment, establishing an alteration and abandonment of roads. That seems to be quite a bit higher than the regular inflationary thing. Are there extra things that have come up that we need to be considering?
Chair Payne, Commissioners, and as you know, you've had a few of these on your agenda in the recent past. The level of research that's going into this effort has gone up. We've put a lot of time into these things. We don't take them and consider them lightly. There's a lot of time that across jurisdiction or across departmental jurisdictions that's involved in these particular types of reviews, as well as our public engagement when we handle those. So I think again the fee is pretty commensurate with it's not commensurate, but it is a reflection of our increase in time that we're spending on these projects and the level of detail that we're putting into our reviews and the presentations that you get and the analysis that you get and the consideration of those.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Looking at this, I too have a question regarding, the growth policy map and text amendment. This is the last thing on the table. And Lewis and Clark County is proposing $3,000. Powell County's 300. So my question is, this is a growth policy. How does that work as far as the application fee? Do people apply to amend the growth policy?
Chair Payne, Commissioners, that's one of the things we've been discussing, and we just went through a big process to adopt our growth policy. And we are anticipating that theoretically that individuals could come in and say, look at our future land use map or look at some content of our growth policy and say, hey, there's been some changes here and this affects me, and I'd like to maybe pursue the county or have the county pursue some consideration of an update to this or an amendment to this. Might be just an amendment to the map because of some changes that they can demonstrate. But nonetheless, the statutory process for engaging in an update to our growth policy is just as rigorous as it is when we do a big update like what we just did. So there is a significant time involved with staff when we engage in that process, and it's not something we want to take on lightly. And I think the fee reflects that, hey, if we're going to do this, let's take it real seriously and make sure we're prepared and have all our ducks in a row. We're going to be successful in the consideration of this, and we have all the resources we need to process that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Andy, do you have any questions?
Nothing further, Commissioner.
Okay, let's see. Oh, is there?
I've got one.
Go ahead.
If I might. Let's say somebody was going to come in and they had a 100 lot subdivision in the area just outside the city limits in that transitional area. Could you, and they wanted a lighting district, and they wanted to have they wanted to have a road maintenance district. What are the fees that they would probably run into? Could we kind of add those up and get some ideas here?
I certainly could provide, Chair Payne, Commissioner, certainly could provide like some costs for how some of these fees might impact a subdivision for that. If you'd like, I could probably pull out my calculator and do it right now, but I don't know if you necessarily want that, but I could come back with at the next meeting and show that.
Okay.
But I'll just reiterate that these fees would, so what I could bring back to the table is what's in relation to here, what you see here. So the subdivision fee for the preliminary plat, the fee that they would encourage for getting the final plat completed. But things like creating a lighting district, that would be a separate process, and that's not included here. Creating the RID, those costs would be determined upon what maintenance is needed, what level of service is provided. So those are things we determine through the conditional process as a subdivider completes their conditions. If they're required to create a rural improvement district, we would then go through that process as a part of those conditions, work with their engineer, work with our engineers and our staff to determine the assessment that's required for that RID.
And have you conveyed these new fees to like the Realtors Association and the homeowner and the builders groups?
I appreciate that question. I apologize I didn't highlight that in my presentation, but we did reach out to our Helena Building Industry Association as well as our Helena area realtors, as well as our chamber to make sure that they are aware that we are pursuing a fee update.
Great. And now if I understand the process, we're going to wait for 2 weeks to see what kind of reaction we get from the public then. And then before we make a final decision. Is that right?
Chair Payne, Commissioners, if you pass this resolution of intent, we'll have a legal ad in the IR for 2 publications. We'll have the fees available down in our clerk and recorder's office. We will have them available on our website. And we will accept written public comment until 4 o'clock on September 29th. And then you will have a public hearing where you'll receive public comment as well on the next day on September 30th.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further comment? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, let's have a motion.
Chair Payne, I would move that we approve Resolution 2025-104, intent to adopt schedule of administrative fees beginning October 1, 2025 for Lewis and Clark County Community Development and Planning Department and Public Works Department as presented by Mr. McNally.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution 2025-104 of an intent to adopt a schedule of administrative fees beginning October 1st. As explained by Greg McNally, all those, do we have any further comments? Did you see how I did that? Nope. Okay. In that case, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Item 4E on today's agenda, agreement to extend preliminary subdivision approval for the Fossbender Minor subdivision. And the applicant is Mike Fossbender and the planner is Greg McNally. I don't see Mr. Fossbender here today.
Chair Payne, Greg McNally with the Community Development Planning Department. Just to let you know, I did make Mr. Fossbender aware that we would be hearing this today. by email. Also told him in person that when he signed the agreement, the extension agreement that I have before you, that this was the day I was anticipating this to be scheduled. It is an item on your agenda. So I would request to be able to continue on with the presentation of it. And if we want to have some discussion about what happens next, we can do that too.
Greg, you're going to have to learn how to speak more slowly. I can't,
I'm sorry.
but I think I got the gist of it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Fossbender, how many years has he gotten this extension? Has it been 10 years?
So Chair Payne, preliminary approval for this project was granted by the County Commission on March 22nd, 2016. So it'll be 10 years in March of 2026.
Oh, and if we give him another extension, 6 months, that will mean he's got 10 years. Is that correct?
Chair Payne, that would be correct.
Do you know if Mr. Fossbender has gotten the approval of the DEQ? That was the one holdup. That I think that was the only thing he had left to do.
Chair Payne, Commissioners, as you'll see on his Mr. Fossbender's extension request application, he says everything is completed except DEQ approval.
The reason I'm asking is because I've kept the documents for the 3 years that I have been on the commission regarding this matter. And I have a note here that, and this was from Mr. Fossbender's engineer, I believe, and he said at that time that the DEQ, the DEQ was the holdup. This was in January 23rd, 2024. I have a letter from you telling Mr. Fossbender that he must demonstrate due diligence in fulfilling the requirements of final plat approval. Now, 18 months later, he still doesn't have it. Am I correct?
Chair Payne, as indicated, he still has not yet received DEQ approval.
I also have here a notice of violation from Greg Plant of a J Plant, excuse me, a notice of violation letters from the Public Health Department based on his storage of vehicles and wrecked, ruined, dismantled camp trailers, snowmobiles. Anyway, and he still hasn't gotten that cleaned up. Is that true?
Chair Payne, I'm aware that our Environmental Health Department has been pursuing complaints on the property. As far as the status of those complaints and his answers to those, I'm not aware right now of that current status.
I'm concerned that Mr. Fossbender may not be a glowing example of good citizenship. It doesn't appear to me that he plays by the rules. And I was startled to see that he was asking for another extension. And if this is the way Lewis and Clark County handles these application, what in the heck are we doing requiring an application? He can obviously just do what he wants for 10 years. I'm sorry, I am pontificating. Thank you, Greg. Is there any questions or comments from the commission? Tom?
How many extensions has he been granted at this point? And maybe the dates, do you have those?
There's been multiple extensions. I don't have the dates in front of me right now. But generally, when we issue a preliminary approval, It's for 3 years. After that 3-year approval, there's the opportunity to request that extension. And generally, we do those at about a year at a time. So he's had multiple extensions up to this point to get this done. So we're well beyond that initial 3 years and those other extension times.
So it at least the 6 or 7 extensions then.
Certainly close to that number,
Yeah.
Chair Payne, Commissioners.
And I see a note, I see a note in here that where he said that, indicates, Mr. Fassbender indicates in his extension request that the cars have been removed. I was out there last night and there are still 30 to 40 vehicles, and trailers and boats and various conditions laying around the property.
Chair Payne, Commissioners, I was out on site last Friday as well and noticed there's still several cars on the property as well. So I concur with your statement.
Anything else, Tom?
I don't know that there's anything that I've dealt with as a commissioner that has been as frustrating as this one.
Good comment, Tom. Andy, do you have anything?
Chair Payne, Commissioner Rolfe, Mr. McNally, thanks for the explanation here. Yeah, no, well, I guess no need to repeat it, but I share the frustration and kind of the exasperation of the situation and would like it to be resolved. And trying to set aside the emotional response and look at the facts and the situation here, it remains that it is likely in the best interest of the county and the citizens we represent to try and get this thing done. So if this extension can lend hand to that completion, then I'd like to do that. The frustrating part about that is I think I might have made that same comment 5 different times, which is really frustrating. And it is not, this is not without all 3 commissioners, I think, have received comment from the public, phone calls, letters, frustration from neighbors about the situation. And there's multiple things going on, as we've discussed, the public health response as well as this extension review. And so there's enough frustration to go around, and I wish that that message would be, if it's not the right term is not taken more seriously, acted upon more readily, I guess, might be, because there's a lot of frustration around this situation. And I think, for a very, very small subdivision with pretty laid out expectations that were pretty clear from the beginning that this surely should have been completed by now, in my estimation. But like I said, it's probably in our interest and in the interest of the public to try and move forward with this and get it done.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank
I
you.
have another question. Should we deny approval of this extension request, what happens next?
So, Chair Payne, Commissioners, if you were to deny the extension request, the preliminary approval for the project goes away. It would no longer be valid. In addition, the project was preliminary approved prior to our zoning for Part 2 going into effect in this particular area. So any new application that comes forward, if you were to resubmit an application, would have to comply with our zoning going forward. And that would be, at this point, with the 10-acre minimum lot size in place, just wouldn't be a subdivision you would see. You would also see probably a plan development application come in compliance with the zoning and the subdivision regulations.
Thank you, Greg. Are you aware of any other minor subdivision applications that have been given 10 years of extension? Or, of kicking the can down the road? Is there any others?
Chair Payne, Commissioners, it's unusual. We don't have any other projects that have gone this far in the recent past. I say recent past because prior to a number of years ago, we only did 3 years and then you had a 1-year extension you could do. And we didn't handle projects beyond that 4 years. That's just done or had to be done by then, or you lost the project. Coming out of the recession, and I'm dating myself and my experience in the county, 2007, 2008, we saw some changes in state law that gave the commission more authority to grant extensions in concert with the applicant. So not just an extension, but working with the applicant to identify dates going forward to extend those particular subdivisions. Not included in our subdivision regulations when that passage came through was any reasonable criteria for this commission to consider and how they might grant those extensions. That is something that is looking forward to be included in our subdivision regulation update, which is forthcoming in probably before the end of the year or just after the end of the year, if that.
Thank you, Greg. Is there any more comments from the commission? Is there,
Chair Payne?
Tom?
I think this is probably the worst display of poor citizenship that I've ever seen. Commitments broken, commitments made, commitments broken. If we were to grant this extension, I cannot foresee any reason that or any excuse that he could present that would get me to make an additional one. This would be it. There is, at that point, I would not, I can't foresee any way I would give him another extension. I can't believe the way he's treated his neighbors. I can't believe the way he has treated the county. It is without a doubt one of the worst examples of poor citizenship that I have ever seen. And I'm a believer in property rights and in people's ability to do what they want to do on their property. But I'm reminded of a comment that my high school civics teacher gave us, and he said, my right to swing my arm ends where the other fellow's nose begins. And he has bloodied several noses in this process. I will not vote for another extension if we do grant him one today.
Thank you, Tom. Anything else? Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I will move that we deny approval of the extension request for the Fossbender minor subdivision.
For purposes of discussion, I will second the motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that we deny approval.
Chair Payne and Commissioners, sorry, I just want to add in, and I don't normally jump in,
Go.
but given what I've heard from the board, I just want to make it clear that, so what you've done is you've just moved to deny the application.
That is
And
correct.
so reason why I'm interjecting is Commissioner Rolfe, you mentioned, for the purposes of discussion. So I just want to be clear that what you have put on the table is denying this as opposed to approving it. So.
And I did it that way, so it was absolutely clear my position on this. I am not happy with giving this citizen another 6 months. Oh, Andy, did you have?
Chair Payne, two things. One, I think I get the point. We usually make motions in the affirmative and then we can vote against them, but I get what, we're just clarifying that. So thank you.
Chair Payne, Commissioner Hunhausen, really quickly again. Because Commissioner Rolfe said kind of what we normally say in these situations, I just wanted to make it clear that the motion is to deny this, this approval. So if a board is going to vote to deny that, then the vote's in the affirmative,
Okay.
which is inverse to what we normally do.
Right.
So,
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that point made. And then the second thing, Commissioner Payne, I share your frustration. I share Commissioner Rolfe's frustration. There was a point made by Mr. McNally as well that we're in the midst of updating our subdivision regulations. And I think from my estimation that I think we will have a better foundation for denying any future extension after if these updates are going to contain the I guess the I don't know what the right terminology would be, but the language that would allow us to be more affirmative in that action. So at this time, I think it's in our best interest, and I'll vote against this motion because not that I don't feel in agreement emotionally, but I think it's in our best interest to extend it one more time. And as Commissioner Rolfe said, you know, if that time comes again where there's another application for an extension, that's when we might have a better foundation for denying it from my estimation. So I'm going to vote against this motion.
It seems to me that by allowing this citizen to have 10 years of ongoing extensions, we are slapping the people who have abided by the rules. They're just getting slapped in the face. Why in the world should they abide by the rules? Fassbender doesn't have to. We'll just kick it on down the road a little farther. I hesitate to use the term weak-kneed water heater, but that was one my dad would use. You know, you kind of take a stand and stand by it. Okay. Anything else? In that case, we have a motion and a second. And did I ask for public comment? I believe I did. Public comment. Okay, seeing none. Further comment from these folks. In that case, all the commissioned, the motion is to deny preliminary approval extension for the Fossbender minor subdivision. And this is a motion to deny. And so all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
Nope.
Thank you.
Chair Payne, I would move to grant the extension.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we grant the extension for another 6 months of the Fossbender minor subdivision. That being said, all in favor? Say,
Chair Payne, if I might,
go
I
ahead.
want to reiterate, I will not vote for another next extension. This is it. No more. That's all.
Andy?
No comment.
All those in favor of approving the preliminary extension request for the Fossbender minor subdivision. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all in favor? Say aye.
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 All opposed? No. Motion passes 2-1. We have reached the point in this meeting where we can ask for public comment on any public matter within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not on the agenda above. Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.